Hey guys, before I start out today's movie vlog, first I apologize. No, like I said on my last video, I wasn't quite sure if I was in the interest to watch either Bob's Burgers or Top Gun Maverick, mostly because I'm not very fond of Bob's Burgers, but also I didn't see the first Top Gun movie, so I feel like it will be unfair to watch the sequel. Even though, yeah, congratulations, I heard Top Gun Maverick is very praised by a lot of critics and people alike. And also, well, that's not exactly also the biggest thing that I just want to tell you, because before I start this vlog, man, that I do have a little bit of a story, but it's a small one because I think I hit the lottery at this time because I went to a movie theater that I usually liked to go, and boy, that I went there and not having any expectations to the movie that I was going through. But once I got there, then they got the people who work at the movie theater. They begin to say that you gotta go to another room because the one that was supposed to screen the movie that I was going to watch apparently has some the projector kind of screw up, and so they decided to move everyone to the other room. And by everyone, I'm telling you that it's just me and an elderly man. There are only two people in that audience. So we went to the other room, and then we just sat there. We watched the trailers, and it started out with the Elvis trailer. And just when the Elvis trailer had, how can I say, the date of the release, the image froze. And so it just got stuck there. And so the old man just stand up, and I went somewhere else. I didn't do anything. I just sat there because the old man was doing kind of like the job for me. And then the worker from the movie theater, he just came and he began to say, you're gonna have to return to the previous room. So we just stand up again, but also he told us, go to the customer services because we're gonna give you a complimentary ticket for your next visit. So yeah. Here it is. I got a readmission ticket. So that means that I can go to the movie theater for my next movie again, and this time free of charge. I was lucky. It's almost like winning the lottery. But I think it's gonna be good because next week is Jurassic Park Dominion. I'm sorry, I don't have so much hope for Jurassic Park Dominion, but it's mostly because of the last movie. But anyway, one movie that I went to see that made me hit the jackpot? Well, none other than David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future. David Cronenberg, it's been a while since I heard about that man. And believe it or not, I thought he was dead. But no disrespect to the guy, because he made some movies that I remember watching, and they were very old school. The ones that pop out of my head right now are Scanners, Videodrome, which was awesome. What else? I never saw The Fly, admittedly. I know that The Fly is very beloved, at least Cronenberg's version. And there was another one that I don't remember that but either way, David Cronenberg is this Canadian director that it is mostly well known to to give his own spin to body horror, because he likes to know people having transformations or deformed faces or hideous faces, anything that has to do with the body horror, I'll say. And it's been many years since he made one, and this one, well, he did it again. He's back to make the body horror. I only saw the trailer once, kind of like months ago. But coincidentally enough, I also realized that many years ago, he also was involved into a movie that has the same title, which is also called, again, Crimes of the Future. And I only saw part of it. It was kind of like in YouTube. I didn't watch it completely, but I saw that it was kind of creative, that they wanted to make a movie in which is completely silent except for one narrator. But I haven't seen the movie. I only got a little bit of some information about the idea of the movie as it is. But weirdly enough, I thought that because the movie that I saw today is also called Crimes of the Future, I thought that was gonna be a remake from that movie. But guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't a remake. It was kind of like it's almost like he forgot that he made that movie and he just decided that, well, here it is. Or he decided to, make this one and he didn't like the other one, so he decided to get a new one. This rare to see someone who is kind of like the owner of that title and then make a completely different movie compared to the other one, but completely different in plot and everything. That was kind of weird. But honestly, yeah, I saw this one. I was the trailer only got me because it had the name David Cronenberg. I was very curious because I'm not exactly a big fan of him, but I respect the man a lot. And I saw it. And here's the thing, here's my results. My results is that the movie, I found it interesting than just, well, good or bad. To be fair, I can't even say if it was good or bad. I only found it, well, interesting. Why? Because I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep for a few moments, and I'll tell you a little bit why, just in case. But honestly, the movie has interesting ideas. The body horror is there, but unfortunately, I felt like it wasn't enough. The idea was there, but it wasn't executed well. There has a semblance of a story, but something on the story, I felt like it feels kind of like missing. I get the characters and some of the good acting, but honestly, they didn't show off so much of the kind of like the acting that there is. And honestly, I'm not trying to take a slander on this movie, but neither I'm gonna try to praise it. I'm mostly kind of like in the middle of it. This is one of those movies in which, in order to have a big understanding of it, I must watch it again. But unfortunately, that's not saying much, because when you are technically forced to watch a movie the second time to understand it, that's not exactly a good sign that says that you made a successful, understandable movie. But either way, here I am. I'm going to talk about Crimes of Grindelwald. Sorry, I mean the Crimes of the Future. That's another can of worms. So, by the way, I'm going to talk about this version. I'm going to completely ignore that the other one exists, because again, I haven't seen that one. I only know the idea, but here goes. So it's an interesting idea that it's basically a sci-fi movie. It's about that if in the distant future, humanity begins to get adapted to the synthetics to the point that the body begins to get used to it, and eventually it kind of stop feeling pain, which it sounds kind of a little bit good in paper, but we know that that the importance of pain let us, of course, let us see or being warned about that there's something wrong with our body. But okay, the case is that evolution, people are evolving. The world is a little bit not exactly, I would say, destroyed. It's kind of like a little bit, how can I say, dark, murky, almost like technology is there. People are living, their normal life, but still there's some kind of like garbage there. Kind of like what would you imagine how downtown New Jersey you will think how it is, or how Hollywood thinks downtown New Jersey is. But not only that, because people are now having this mutation that they cannot feel pain or something like that. They also begin to make surgeries and body donors. They see them as a work of art, in a way that it feels erotic, I'll say. And so they turn surgical procedures into erotic performance pieces. And basically this movie centers on this guy, what was his name? Named Saul Tenser. He's played by Viggo Mortensen. And he is with his wife, Leah Seydoux, who was played by Leah Seydoux. That's the name of the actress, sorry, she's named Caprice. Which basically these are kind of like a couple that help each other, mostly because the Viggo character, he basically has the power that he regenerates body organs inside his body. So he takes this advantage to make him and his wife make performance pieces in which he remove his own organs in front of a live audience, and of course donated and all these things. And that's basically, I will say, the kind of like the crux of the whole thing. It kind of, the story begins to evolve, show that the world is like that. People just go there to see all these, people doing all these weird things with their bodies, and seeing also how, because of their conditions, they also have to, how can I say, live up with some kind of alien technology, I'll say, because it has this futuristic technology in which videos are even filmed, not with iPhones, although they use cameras and iPhones, but they also use kind of like video cameras that are inserted on rings. In the case of our main character, because of the side effects that he is kind of like one of the few person in the world that feels pain. He has to live in this kind of like this Cronenberg alien-looking bed that kind of puts him into other positions, and also some other people, they have to, whatever they have to eat, they can't swallow very well, I'll say. So in order to remedy that, they had to sit through this weird chair that it feels like a work of art made by Ed Gein. It's all kind of like, it's so alien, not just alien, but it's creepy. It's kind of like it's made of like if my chair is made of bones, alien bones. And this thing. Every piece is kind of like moves around, and the person is just kind of like eating kind of like their kind of like this mashed potato like this. And you see it like sorry, guess what, this sensation was real, because I don't know why it made me sick. Oh shit! But so I've been telling you all this, and you may be asking me, what's the plot? I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you that there is a plot, because most of it is kind of like trying to build this world in which they have with these performance artists, in which they also make deals with with organ registrations and all these things that I kind of didn't understand because some almost the first half of the movie I kind of fell asleep, but I tried to pay attention, by the way. But the closest thing as a plot that I could get is that the movie technically just starts out with a mother who kills off her child by smothering it with a pillow, all because she finds out that his child, for some reason, it begins to eat a plastic bucket. And she finds it weird. I will say that I was kind of laughing at seeing the imagery of this child eating this plastic bucket, because in my head, it reminded me of Gatchan from Dr. Slump. Yeah, the little angel from this Akira Toriyama work called Dr. Slump, in which it is this little angel who goes around and he likes to eat metal things like that's what this kid reminded me of, but instead of metal he eats plastic. And man, that's kind of like, I just wanted to laugh something on my head. But anyway, the kid is killed by the mother. She's arrested, but of course the father, he basically feels like it was unfair that the kid got killed because he was different. And it is then later shown that the father also, he belongs to kind of this organization or some political organization, showing off that humanity is still evolving to the point that the new kind of humans, they in order to sustain themselves, they eat plastic. And for the most part, you're gonna see him kind of like eating this chocolate bar, and then it is revealed, of course, that this chocolate is actually some kind of plastic, I'll say. The funny thing is that whenever I saw this chocolate, I was in my head, I was thinking of the Monster Hunter movie. I still, even after this long time, it's been 2 years since I saw that Monster Hunter movie, and the biggest thing that I remember is chocolate. This movie brought me memories of that. But okay, so how this thing connects to the plot that I already told you? Well, it kind of connects because he finds the protagonist, the Viggo Mortensen character, and the father begins to say that, hey, I want to bring out this message about this child, and we want to expose that what he is, and so please try to make we want you to do that. And the guy is like, I don't know, I gotta go through a lot of things. He goes, so pretty much it's kind of like this big world exposition, and I wish I could tell you more about it, but most of the film I felt kind of like very confused, because it's mostly just trying to build the world, but not exactly having kind of like married to a plot, because it doesn't feel like that the plot was good enough, I'll say, and this is only. And I'll say that it's mostly harmed, mostly because of the way this movie is narrated. A lot of the world building is very exposition heavy, very. And man, that because of this exposition heavy dialogues, this is the reason why I felt that this movie got boring for me. And honestly, this is something that I noticed in some of the Cronenberg movies that I have seen, that when it gets exposition heavy, it's not interesting. But when things happen, this is when the things get interesting. That kind of reminds me of Scanners. I remember that when I watched Scanners, I was heavily disappointed. I was heavily disappointed because it had so much exposition, not much was happening, and only the biggest moment that you remember from Scanners is when things happen. Of course, let's not forget the dude who has his head exploded. This is why, this is why at this moment, when I weighed in, at the moment I feel like Videodrome was kind of like the better movie, because even Videodrome made a better job showing the world without being so exposition heavy, I'll say. And that I will say that this is one of my cons that I have with this movie, which is a shame because the acting it's not exactly bad. It's actually quite good. Viggo Mortensen, Leah Seydoux, and some of the other actors, Don McKellar is also there. Oh, and also Kristen Stewart is there. And they kind of, some of those characters, they bring out the relationship with the world and how it goes. Although for the most part, they're only there just to showcase how the world is going, instead of being kind of showing and doing something too important to the movie. And I will say that if I could nitpick a little bit on the movie, is that how could I say? I never thought they wanted to make this a world in which the people, they no longer feel pain. They no longer feel pain to the point that they can even use a scalpel to cut their wrist off and just show off that hey, I can do it, and all these things, and all these things. But apparently when they don't feel pain, apparently that also means that it also kills off their emotions. Because honestly, there wasn't too much of an emotive reaction in this movie. There are a few moments, but it wasn't technically very strong. It's just kind of everyone talking like they're kind of like in this, kind of like in a Twilight movie. Really coincidence because Kristen Stewart is there. They're kind of emotionless. So there's some very little emotion. There's some, there are moments in which you can feel some arousal in it. But maybe that was the idea of the movie. Maybe that I didn't get. What else I can say? What are some other highlights that this movie has? Oh yeah, maybe you're the biggest reason why you want to see this movie, which is when there is David Cronenberg, you're gonna get some really weird shit in imagery and all these things. You're here for the body horror, and if you're looking for that, you got it. And boy, that this movie had. Well, I wouldn't say like a spectacularly a lot, but once you see them, you're gonna say, well, that's the reason I paid. That's the reason I paid for this movie. Well, except me, because I already told you my story. I technically got a refund, and now I got a free movie. But anyway, the body horror is personally the biggest highlight of this movie. It looks good. For visual effects, it looks good. And some of them, they kind of look CGI, although I didn't notice. There are a few moments that I can't tell if it was practical. Maybe it was CGI, but it wasn't kind of like distracting or something else. But the execution is what works. Some of them are going to be so horrified, I'll say. Although, maybe not as much as, well, the last movie that I saw with him, the last movie that I saw, Man, in which it had some body horror. This one has kind of like its uniqueness. Not only just because of the surgery, then people kind of slit in the script. It's slicing their, their faces or their foot or something like that. Sometimes, although I kind of wish that they have a more weird imagery with, especially like the one that is probably kind of like the biggest highlight in this movie, in which there is kind of like a moment in which we see a little bit of a performance art, which involves a man that is naked except for his underwear, and he decides to, how can I say, sew both his eyes and his mouth, and stitch up a bunch of human ears around his body. Almost like it is the combination of that ear monster of real monsters. What was it? And well, just this guy. Maybe I went for it, but you get the idea. And then the guy begins to dance like naked, like crazy. Kind of like like you see in the ballerinas. In my mind, I was imagining the rain dance that Malcolm McDowell did in Caligula. But then the movie ruins it a little bit when we jump to a character talking to our protagonist who is hiding, forgetting to mention that that for the majority of the movie he's always in a coat and a mask, almost looking like a superhero. But while they were talking, we see in the background this multi-ear guy dancing this crazy dance, and in my mind it's like, I want to see that. I wish there was, and honestly, I kind of wish that there were more of this imagery. Maybe the budget wasn't too much about that. Whew. What else I can talk about this movie? Well, I already told you about, cinematography. I already talked to you about it. I talked to you about that imagery. Yeah, again, the story beats didn't do so much because I was getting lost into too much exposition, so much that as the movie progresses and then comes, during the climax, I was like, okay. And then, of course, the biggest thing happened. I tried to understand what was happening, and then the ending happened. The ending comes off as it's both poetic, but at the same time, it leaves you a little bit that feeling that the movie could have been a little bit more than what you get. It leaves out kind of like more questions than answers, and it feels like, the movie had not exactly a big plot. You only seen just world building and the only thing that it was close to a plot is this involvement to having the corpse of a child being used as a performance art in order to show the world, what this kid is, kind of, making kind of like a satire to performance art and all these things. Even that plot point kind of feels that it ended in a hollow note. That's mostly how I felt. So in ways, I kind of want to apologize to this movie that I didn't pay enough attention to kind of understand it. But that's not saying that I am criticizing it very badly. I'm just criticizing it in my point of view that I wasn't 100% very invested into the world, except when the weird things happen. It's gonna take me kind of like a second viewing in order to appreciate it more. But in the meantime, I think it is in the middle of the road, at least for me. If you want to keep supporting David Cronenberg, check it out. I mean, his comeback was decent. Maybe he could, maybe if he makes more movies with more body horror, I think that'll be great. But either way, nothing much. You know what? And now I'm thinking about it, it's pretty stupid. Us evolving to become plastic eaters. What do people know about that? You know, I got a feeling that the next movie is gonna be a little bit shitty. I have no faith to